Hey, what is up, guys? So today I want to talk about how the vegan diet put me in the hospital multiple times. Let me just emphasize the authenticity of this story. Everything I'm going to be covering today has happened and has happened in the last 3 years and are partially responsible for why I eventually had to quit the vegan diet. I am making this video to prevent anybody else from going down this dangerous path that I went down. When I tell you that the vegan diet has put me in the hospital 3 times, I'm not exaggerating. To this day, I'm still dealing with some of the residual effects of my extremely traumatic and dangerous pursuit of a vegan diet. So I apologize in advance if I get a little bit emotional during my recounting of my journey. So my traumatizing vegan journey started around 3 months before the pandemic started. I went vegan in October of 2019. From October 2019 to February 2020, I felt really good. And at this point, I was under the impression that I made the right decision in subscribing to this lifestyle. It wasn't until I started to feel very feverish and I had trouble breathing and I was losing my sense of taste and sense of smell that I started to question whether or not what I was doing for myself, was the healthy thing to do. These symptoms were so pervasive and awful that I eventually went to the hospital and I was put on a ventilator for 2 weeks. When I asked the doctor what was wrong with me, he told me I tested positive for that virus. I'm not going to say the name because YouTube is a little weird with the term. But anyway, he told me I was positive for that virus and I was very scared. I was shocked. I heard the news, what was happening. And he asked me if I had any dietary restrictions and then I told him that I was just vegan. The doctor dropped his clipboard and all of a sudden said, "Wait, you're vegan?" Just in complete shock. I said yes. And then he responded abruptly, and I quote, "Fuck everything I just said about you testing positive for this virus. Everything that you're experiencing right now is because you're vegan." I was shocked to hear this information. Here I am in the middle of a pandemic, testing positive for a disease being proliferated during this pandemic while possessing the symptoms of this disease, only to find out that it was my vegan diet that was responsible for my symptoms, not my testing positive for this disease. I went on vegan forums and they told me that my doctor was talking complete nonsense and that I obviously was having those disease specific symptoms because I was just testing positive for that specific disease. So against my better judgment, I fully believed this vegan forum and did begin to attribute my disease-like symptoms to the disease I was testing positive for. Looking back, this was a terrible decision. So I went on consuming a vegan diet for another 3 months and then boom, something else happened. I was messing around with my friends and they were daring me to jump off a cliff, which had about a 55-foot fall. So I decided to just jump off the cliff. Upon landing, I absolutely just screamed and I felt several agonizing cracks and I was just in so much pain. And I eventually realized that I had 21 bone fractures and severe brain trauma. I was immediately sent to the hospital. And after arising from my 4th surgery in recovery, I was asked by the doctors and the medical professionals what happened. I told them that I was vegan and jumped headfirst off of a cliff, which had a 55-foot fall onto straight up concrete. The doctors quickly just concluded that the reason I had all these fractures and injuries and brain trauma was because I was vegan. They even went as far to say that if I had 1 nanogram of steak on that day, I would have had no injuries, even if I had still jumped off the cliff. I was very confused by this. I said, "Are you sure that my 21 bone fractures and severe brain trauma has nothing to do solely with the fact that I jumped headfirst off of a cliff and fell 55 feet onto concrete?" They said, "Absolutely not. It's because you're vegan. Even if you had not jumped off that cliff, you would still be here on our operating table with 21 bone fractures to fix and severe brain trauma." Guys, at this point, I did not know what to do. I had 2 instances now of being sent to the hospital and being told by medical professionals that my ailments are solely from, my consumption of a vegan diet. So I went back to those vegan forums in a panic. They were brainwashing me and told me that I suffered all those fractures and trauma because I jumped off of a cliff. This was starting to become so bizarre to me. One vegan even went as far to say, "What the fuck is wrong with you, dude? How could you possibly think jumping off a cliff didn't cause your injuries?" I wasn't sure why he was so upset with me. I was just listening to the doctors. So unfortunately, they managed to convince me again that my ailments had nothing to do with my vegan diet. So a full year went by and I was fully recuperated. All of my bone fractures were resolved, and my brain trauma was also resolved. So then, out of complete boredom, I decided to light myself on fire while my friend shoots me 7 times in both arms. I started screaming at the top of my lungs and yelled for my friend to extinguish the fire. He eventually called the ambulance, and before I knew it, I was in the hospital again with the same medical professionals from before. I suffered 3rd and 4th degree burns on both sides of my body, along with fractures in the humerus bone on both my arms. I literally could not move at this point. The doctor said what happened, and before I can even utter an answer, they managed to interrupt me and say, "Wow, you haven't been here in a year, and you've aged a year." I said, "Yes, I did. Is there a problem?" And the doctor said, "I've aged a year in a year because I'm vegan." At this point, the confusion just continued to, erupt in my head, but I was more concerned in those moments with my 3rd and 4th degree burns all over my body and the bone fractures in my arms. So I said, "Doc, what about these burns and fractures?" I told him I decided to light myself on fire while my friend shot me 7 times in both arms, and the doctors looked me up and down and said, "Are you still vegan?" And of course, I said yes. And then they started yelling at me, saying, "Oh my God, dude, we've been telling you for years now that the vegan diet is causing all these ailments and you're still vegan." They said, and I quote, "Dude, you're coming in here again with fractured bones and now 3rd and 4th degree burns. Stop being vegan." And then I said, "But doc, don't you think that lighting myself on fire and getting shot 14 times in the arm is more responsible for it than my vegan diet?" He and the nurses just started bursting out laughing at me and said that if I just ate steak, like I wouldn't have any of these burns and any of these fractures. Guys, this was my 3rd time being put in the hospital and being put in this situation. And I just, at this point, I knew that it was the vegan diet that was responsible for all of my physical ailments over the last 3 years. I unsubscribed from all the brainwashing vegan forums that were trying to tell me that jumping off a cliff caused my bone fractures, and that lighting myself on fire caused me to burn up, and that my disease-like symptoms were because I was testing positive for a disease, when in reality all of these ailments were because I decided to stop eating animal products. So I've started eating dog testicles and now just strictly dog shit. I'm on the dog shit kind of diet, and it's been about 1.5 years since I've had any sort of physical ailments like bone fractures or 3rd and 4th degree burns. And I don't think that's really a coincidence. I mean, right? Like, it's been so long and I haven't had those ailments. So obviously it's the vegan diet. Now, I haven't jumped off a cliff or lit myself on fire while getting shot in the arm 14 times in that 1.5 years, but I'm not really sure why that's worth mentioning. I think it is blatantly obvious at this point that the vegan diet is what was causing all of my illnesses. I am making this video for the people. I don't want others to spontaneously break all of their bones and become incinerated while consuming a vegan diet. There is just too much suffering that is going to occur in humanity if we don't get this video out. So please share this with every vegan that you know and help them understand that them spontaneously having all of their bones fractured and becoming incinerated are their destiny if they continue to withhold from eating animal products. I am begging you to share this video. This is not a joke. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. This is my journey. I will be signing off. I appreciate all the love and support. Please no fighting in the comments. Again, this is my journey. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, the link is in my pinned comment. You can help me pay for some more dog shit. It's really helping me stay sane and stay away from bone fractures and spontaneous, doses of incineration. So I really appreciate the support, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.
Dude,
fuck off. I don't want anything to do with you. Don't ever speak to me again. You're a fucking piece of shit.
even vegans don't get your weird, stupid wannabe sense of irony here. Who's your audience? Nobody gets these dumb jokes. Dude,